The Detroit Lions just sent a message to the rest of the league, and it's one that signals change, evolution, and maybe even a little bit of risk. This is not a quiet offseason in Detroit. This is a franchise recalibrating after a step back in 2025, and every move they've made so far tells us something about where this team believes it stands. Let's start with the move that hit the locker room and the fan base in a deeply personal way. The Lions released veteran offensive lineman Glasgow, creating over $5.5 million in cap space and officially closing the book on one of the more emotional player arcs in recent franchise history. Drafted in the third round back in 2016, Glasgow embodied everything this franchise has tried to build under Dan Campbell: toughness, versatility, and resilience. He played center, he played guard, he came back after a stint with the Broncos, and he earned a 3-year extension after proving he still belonged. But the reality is, the Lions' offensive line regressed in 2025, and when an identity team loses its identity up front, someone usually pays the price. Glasgow was asked to do a lot. He played left guard in 2024. He slid to center in 2025 after Frank Ragnow's sudden retirement. Right guard was his natural position, but he became the patchwork solution. That kind of positional instability matters. Offensive line play is about chemistry, repetition, and comfort. Instead, Glasgow became the adjustable wrench in a system that needed stability. At 33 years old, entering a season where he was set to earn $6.5 million, the Lions made a cold, calculated decision. This wasn't just about cap space. This was about resetting the interior. And when you look at the bigger picture, the move fits a pattern. Detroit is overhauling its offensive line room. Taylor Decker is expected back. But at center, there is no clear answer. Tate Ratledge is an option. Juice Scruggs is now in the mix. There could be a free agent splash. Or there could be internal development. Glasgow's farewell message made it clear how much Detroit meant to him. 7 years. Teammates. Coaches. A city that shaped him. That kind of connection doesn't fade easily. But the NFL is ruthless. And right now, the Lions are prioritizing long-term structure over sentiment. Then came the other emotional earthquake. David Montgomery is gone. The trade to the Houston Texans sent shockwaves through a fan base that embraced this Sonic and Knuckles duo as one of the most dynamic backfield pairings in modern football. Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs complemented each other perfectly. Power and explosion. Punishment and speed. Over 3 seasons in Detroit, Montgomery produced more than 2,500 rushing yards and 33 touchdowns, carving out a renaissance chapter in his career. But opportunities started to shrink. Gibbs' role expanded. The offense evolved. And Montgomery, entering his age 29 season with no guaranteed money left on his deal, wanted something different. From a business standpoint, this is textbook Brad Holmes. The Lions secured a 2026 fourth-round pick, a 2027 seventh-rounder, and interior lineman Juice Scruggs. They avoided paying a running back nearing 30. They extracted draft capital. They maintained financial flexibility. But football is not just spreadsheets. Montgomery's best moments in Detroit weren't just highlight runs. They were tone-setting plays. The 72-yard explosion against Baltimore. The 75-yard touchdown in Los Angeles. And that unforgettable Monday Night Football play against Seattle in 2024, when he turned a simple check down into a demolition sequence, running through Devin Witherspoon like a freight train before slicing through defenders for 40 yards. That play wasn't just about yards. It was about identity. It was about violence, balance, and will. Now that piece is gone. So what does that mean for the offense? It means Jahmyr Gibbs is the unquestioned centerpiece of the backfield. It means Sione Vaki might be asked to step into the RB2 role. It means the Lions could explore veteran options like James Conner if he becomes available. It also means Detroit is betting on offensive line restructuring to compensate for the loss of short yardage reliability. And that brings us directly to Juice Scruggs. Scruggs was not a throw-in. He was a former second-round pick with legitimate center experience. He has logged over 1,600 career snaps. He has started at both guard spots and at center. His natural position is center, and that's where his upside lies. When you evaluate Scruggs, you see a player comfortable in zone concepts, effective climbing to the second level, capable in space, and disciplined in pass protection. He sorts stunts well. He communicates pre-snap. He mirrors defenders once engaged. When uncovered, he finds work. Those are traits that matter in Detroit's scheme. But there are concerns. He's more of a positioning blocker than a drive mover. He can struggle against powerful three techniques. He plays too upright at times. Against elite interior defenders like Jeffrey Simmons, he's been overwhelmed. At guard, his limitations are magnified. At center, he looks more natural. This is a low-risk evaluation year. There is no guaranteed money tied to him beyond this season. That tells you everything about how Brad Holmes views this acquisition. Its value, its flexibility, its competition. The larger question is whether Detroit will stop there. Reports are already conflicting. Albert Breer suggested the Lions could take a major swing at Ravens center Tyler Linderbaum. Imagine that. A market-setting deal for arguably the best center in football. That would instantly restore dominance up front. On the other hand, Detroit Free Press reporting suggests the Lions may stand pat, move Tate Ratledge to center, and avoid major free agent splashes. Those are two dramatically different strategies. One says Detroit is ready to push chips in and correct last year's regression aggressively. The other says they trust their development pipeline and prefer internal growth. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Lions' evolving offseason strategy, make sure you subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown as free agency unfolds. Because this offseason isn't just about replacing players. It's about redefining structure. And that extends to the defensive side of the ball. Marcus Davenport is now an unrestricted free agent. His tenure in Detroit never fully materialized. Injuries defined it. Torn triceps, shoulder and pectoral setbacks. 8 games in 2025. 1 sack. Modest production. When healthy, he offers versatility. He can set the edge. He can kick inside. He has heavy hands and a respectable bull rush. But availability matters. As the saying goes, your best ability is availability. And at this stage of his career, entering his 9th season, it's fair to question whether Davenport can be counted on for consistent production. Financially, re-signing him would be cheap. Veteran minimum territory. But philosophically, the Lions may choose a new direction. With Aiden Hutchinson anchoring one edge, Detroit needs stability opposite him. Not hope. Not, if healthy, stability. This offseason is shaping up to be a philosophical crossroads. At running back, they chose flexibility over emotional attachment. At offensive line, they chose cap space and youth over veteran familiarity. At defensive end, they may choose durability over upside. And we haven't even touched the backup quarterback. Discussion. Jared Goff remains the starter. He hasn't missed a game in 4 seasons. But behind him, Kyle Allen and C.J. Beathard are free agents. The Lions could run it back with Allen. They could explore a veteran like Tyrod Taylor. They could even entertain a reunion with Teddy Bridgewater if he wants to continue playing. This isn't a glamorous position battle, but depth matters when your window is open. That's what all of this ultimately comes down to. Detroit believes its window is still open. They believe the 2025 regression was not a collapse, but a correction. The offensive line dipped. The run game shifted. Defensive depth wavered. But the core remains. Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Aiden Hutchinson, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs. The question now is whether they double down with aggressive spending or lean into internal growth. Holmes hinted at flexibility. It could be entirely different this year, he said regarding free agency. That's not a man closing doors. That's a general manager surveying the board. The legal tampering period opens soon, and the direction Detroit chooses will tell us exactly how urgent they feel about reclaiming their identity. One thing is certain. This is not a stagnant franchise. They are reshaping the trenches. They are reallocating resources. They are preparing for sustainability, not just splash. And as fans process the loss of Montgomery and Glasgow, the reality is this. Every contender reaches a point where sentiment must give way to structure. The Lions are there. If they hit on center, whether through Scruggs, Ratledge, or a bold acquisition like Linderbaum, the offense stabilizes. If they reinforce the defensive line with healthier, more reliable pieces, the defense regains balance. If they manage cap space wisely, they preserve flexibility for future extensions. But if these gambles miss, if the interior offensive line struggles again, if Gibbs is forced into a heavier workload without a dependable complement, if edge depth remains thin, then 2026 could look eerily similar to 2025. This is the tightrope contenders walk. Detroit is betting on smart churn. on calculated risk, on culture and development. Now the next move belongs to Brad Holmes. And if you want continued in-depth Lions analysis that goes beyond headlines and into real roster impact and strategy, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you want a big swing at center, or should the Lions trust their young core? Let's debate it. Because this offseason is about more than transactions. It's about identity reborn.